Doodly doo doo doo. Meow. Hello everybody, welcome to Xucaboa 100% Vanilla Baby, episode number 25. Let's load up our last game here. As always, I'd like to say thank you, gracias, obrigado, to new Xucaboa citizens. This episode we have Noob Build Cities, Conrad Skillin, and Paul Wright. And I'd like to say a special thanks to Grahtles for the very nice praise of Xucaboa in her latest video. If you check out the description, you will see a link. Here is our photo of Xuca, and she is upside down, with her little teeth hanging out. Let's take a look at what we did last episode. We put in a taxi depot, a metro station, one of the newer metro stations. It's got the little clock there inside. We got a fire station, one of the bigger ones, and a post office, all kind of right in that area next to the disaster response unit. We also added a little bit of high density up on the ridge there, but not too much going on with that. Now over here we also added some ramps and things to access this area in the future when we decide to put in some industrial stuff. It was just on my mind, so I was thinking, you know what, let's do it now since we had just made that system interchange in the other episode. And the first named thing I'm going to do in this episode, I'm going to call this the Grahtles Expressway as a token of my appreciation for what she said in her last video. It was such a nice thing of her to do to talk about Xucaboa in such glowing terms, and so I'd like to repay that, let every one of you know that, and I'm not just saying this because it's praise for praise, but she actually does make very good City Skylines videos, and I recommend checking them out when you can. So we're going to call this the Grahtles Expressway. I'm just making sure that our roads are adjusted so that it makes sense. And you know what? We'll call this side the North Grahtles Expressway North, and on this side we'll call this the Grahtles Expressway South, because this is a north-south road. It is kind of an expressway. It just cuts across and down towards the island from that main east-west highway. So yeah, we'll just adjust the roads, make sure that they are where we want them. I don't think we want to count that ramp. So yeah, I think that's good. Thank you again, Grahtles. Everyone should check out her channel when you get a chance. She's playing on console. It's 100% vanilla, and she's doing a great job. Here, what I'm going to do, I'm going to start labeling different areas of the city, just using a gravel path as kind of a pencil or a pen. And we'll call that first one on the island, we'll call that Sector Alpha. That'll be Sector Bravo over in the fertile area by the bridge. We'll call this on the other side of the river, we'll call this Sector Charlie. Alright, and I'm just saying sector because it sounds official, but we'll call that Sector Delta over there by the mountain. I know there's some ore over there. We will call this Sector Echo on the little island with the castle. Over here in this industrial area, we'll call it Sector Foxtrot. Over on this side of the map, by the, I guess that old abandoned rail yard looking place, we'll call this Sector Golf. Right, and then up here in the mountain, my good friend Opie has been bugging me to do something here for a long time. He really wants it, so we'll call that Sector Opie. I'm not going to call it Oscar Papa, we'll just call it OP. And then over here in this big area, I imagine this is kind of where the big part of the city will be. It's the largest kind of open space. So we'll just put a star there, because I don't know, that's going to take a lot of work to get that going, so I don't want to label that. But right now, I have all these different labels in different areas, kind of in, at least right now, the sequence in which I want to start doing some work there. But I know that I feel kind of like the last episodes have been a little bit slow, maybe a little bit more boring, because I'm really just watching things grow. And that's not always the most interesting thing, but for me it's still very important because I want the city to look good. So I put those labels in a way that we can, if you want me to go in a direction, just mention it in the comments, and I will really take that under consideration. I think there's something I could do in every one of those sectors, more or less. So if you've got an idea, if you want me to go in a direction, just say so, and maybe in a upcoming episode, instead of just continuing to fill in neighborhood after neighborhood, just kind of expanding slowly, maybe I could do something on some other part of the map. I think that might be pretty cool. So what I'm doing right now, I'm just filling in some more high density. I'm putting in the cemetery that I've been talking about for a little bit. I've decided that here looks like a lovely spot. And what I'll do is I'll put a little a dead end cul-de-sac right there. We'll use the 4-lane road to kind of make it look like a little cul-de-sac oval. Not quite like what the cemetery street has right now. We'll connect some paths around the cemetery so people can walk around from the end into the streets. And instead of leaving that as a dead end, we will put a connecting street. And now I'm going to upgrade the highway to have some sound barriers just in this area, because we're going to start putting in some residential and I don't want any noise pollution going in. Right here you see I think it would be awesome if I could just have the sound barrier on one side. I don't think it needs to be on the other side, but since we can't do that, we'll just leave both up there. And now I've upgraded to a 2-lane highway a little bit, which gives me a crosswalk, and I'm going to put in a pedestrian bridge using the zoo path, right? And I think because we're already a little bit elevated when we start, the ramp up is not so steep, and going across the highway, that's going to be an important pedestrian connection. Otherwise, people would have to walk all the way around by the cable car stop to get to the other side. So now they have a way just to go across there, kind of connecting both ends of Mount T-Rex. A very important connection. I'm going to put in a fence right here to get our zoning cells all on the street that I want, not on that kind of main street that's going through with the bike path. And I'll start doing some selective zoning so that we get the size growables that we want, the right size growables. Okay, you may notice that in this episode, I'm not really time-lapsing, okay? I'm trying to go a little bit slower. I've been hitting it hard with the time-lapses recently. So really all I've done is I've just edited the video ever so slightly with speed changes. And overall, I think it's like a 1.25 times speed increase. So hardly noticeable, but it does shave off a couple minutes, which is good. Right here, let's put in an eldercare. I think this is an important building to place. And we'll call this the Noob Build Cities Eldercare. Now, Noob Build Cities is another YouTube channel doing City Skylines content, and I kind of found them on accident. And I've watched a lot of their episodes. They're making a city called Isla Glades. It's a beautiful city. This guy's got a very, very cool approach to designing a city. It reminds me a lot of what I do. He's very, very selective about specific things, and I think that really makes a big difference. So his channel will be linked in the description also, and be featured in my main page list of channels. Be sure to check Noob Build Cities out. Okay, I've just moved the crematorium that I had downtown a little bit closer to the cemetery, and I'm just going to rearrange those zoning pieces right there to get some new buildings in that corner. I think it's important to have the crematorium a little bit close to the cemetery. This way, when I want to empty a cemetery, it can just have a very short travel time to go there. I know that I don't need to have cemeteries if I just have a lot of crematoriums. You do need a bit more crematoriums than cemeteries to do that, but I like having a cemetery every now and then. I think it's a real thing. There are cemeteries in real life, and they make sense. But also for the mechanics of the game, I do kind of like to have a cemetery and then a crematorium, at least at this stage, because it's a little bit cheaper than just having crematoriums. Those can add up. And we'll start doing some low-density residential on this street and marking a few buildings historical when we like them and letting some others level up, just like we've been doing with other buildings in the past. The same we'll do with this high density. There, I forgot one parcel. We'll fill that in. I'm going to try to grow some of this organic stuff. This isn't actually organic. That's an Edison car dealership. Edison is the fake Tesla of this game. Edison being Tesla's main competitor in real life. So we'll put in that car dealership by the eldercare, by the Noob Build Cities eldercare. You know what? I just realized that while I was talking before, I put in a school and I didn't even talk about it. So real quick, I put in the European style elementary school just over in the next block. All right. And that was named for Conrad. That's the Conrad SKYLINE, the Conrad S Elementary School. Sorry, I didn't mention that when I placed it. I am recording the audio after I play the game. And sometimes I get distracted saying something and I miss it. So I missed that, but I remember now. Conrad, your school is right there. It's a nice looking school. I think it fits in well. We already have a Green Cities community school in the downtown. And so having this more, I don't want to say it's rural, but it's, I don't know, it's got a big house. There it is right there. It's got like a big house feel. It's got a hedge around it. I think it looks good with this transition from high density to low density. And right next to it, we'll put this park. And we'll name this Paul W. Playground. It's a playground. Paul W. just got in for this episode. There you saw the picture, surprise, random without warning of Xuca. She's having a look over the balcony. But back to the Paul W. Playground. Paul W. wrote a comment and subscribed right as I was about to start recording this gameplay. So it just made it in time, which was a few days ago now from when this video will have been published. So we'll start filling in some low density commercial until we get something we like right on this corner. And you know what? No, we don't want that. We already have a soy and lentils over by the building. I do like this little container restaurant. It's not the same one as the beach tourism restaurant, but it's kind of the same idea. Containers and tables and things. I think that's a cool look. Here we go. We got a nice little organic food market. You know, it's not a rural looking asset. It's urban enough, but it's still low profile and on the edge there. So people can walk across the bridge to get their groceries. And that's pretty important. Grocery stores really are an important part of any neighborhood. And I feel like this game doesn't adequately represent them. You know, there's not enough grocery stores going on. But there are a few, or at least we can imagine that some buildings are grocery stores, even if they might not specifically be. Now we're just keeping an eye on buildings as they level up, marking them historical when we like them. This office, that's the same as the builder headquarters one. I know we're gonna have to have those pop up, but I don't know if we're gonna end up keeping that one. Yeah, let's get rid of that. There's just a bigger version of the same building, a little bit longer. But we'll let some of these offices fill in. You see that we're just on the border of the IT cluster, so these are not IT cluster buildings, but right across they would be. And really I'm just starting to taper down, to ease away from the very high density look into smaller density, a lot of the stuff you might see in the first tile. And that will be that. Mixing it up with high density commercial and office. All right, those two buildings are pretty similar. I think they look nice next to each other. Yeah, just marking the ones we like historic as historical buildings. But now it can be tempting when you have zoning cells to put stuff like everywhere, to fill in every possible zonable cell. But especially in organic cities, if you're doing just a straight grid, then that's one thing. But if you're doing an organic city, a lot of curves, a lot of random spaces, a lot of elevation changes, I don't always recommend doing that. I am going to try to fill in some stuff here to see if I like it, but empty space is an important part too, and you can take advantage of that. So don't always feel like if you see a zonable block, a zonable cell, that you have to zone it. You don't. You can choose not to. It can just be there. And sometimes that makes it look better. So something to keep in mind for anyone who's watching this and trying to get ideas for their own city. Yeah, some of these buildings I like. I'm going to mark some historical just to make sure that they don't level up anymore, and I keep kind of some diversity in the buildings. I don't want, on this street, I really don't want all the same building going on, because it's a low density, and it's not really like a cookie cutter suburb style, you know, where everything would be the same house. I feel like this is an older section of this area, because you got the old cemetery, those small houses. They might have been here for a while before things started upgrading to high density. If this were real life. It's not, so we just have to use our imagination. Which is the fun part of this game, is it not? It's like playing with toys that come to life. This building here, I think it's a nice building, but is it too big? I think it might be too big. Let's get rid of it. A little bit strange putting in a couple of 1x1 industrial assets, but I don't know, I'm experimenting to see if I like it. I did this once in the last tile. I remember Captain Obvious had made a comment about it, saying it's a little bit strange. And it is. But sometimes I think you see some little industrial things mixed in places. Speaking of Captain Obvious, I saw a live stream on Twitch of his recently. He's working in Roslyn Peninsula also, which was pretty cool, because that's this map. And he is one of my biggest sources of inspiration for starting this channel and doing things the way I'm doing them. So always like to mention him when I can. One of the great YouTubers in my opinion. Not that everyone else who's doing this isn't also great. He's just happens to be a personal favorite of mine, I guess, or inspiration of mine. But I do a lot of things different than he does too. So you know, I'm not trying to copy his style. I'm just trying to take what I like from it, just like I take from everyone else's. You know, one of those good artists borrow, great artists steal things. I'm just a good artist. I'm just borrowing. I'm not stealing anything from him. So we'll fill in a little bit of trees around here, a little bit more of the jungle, just in these gaps. Not too much, just enough. Right, we're getting to the part of this island where the jungle is going to start to really taper off and ease away from being very thick, because on the original vanilla jungle, before I cleared it, before I built here, that's kind of what it did. And it is important for me to preserve the character of the original map. As much fun as it is to alter it sometimes. Some things there was a jungle here, let's keep a jungle here. I don't want to get too crazy and place jungle everywhere, or, you know, delete one jungle to build a new jungle somewhere else. Elevation I might be a little bit more willing to play around with, but jungles and vegetation and stuff, I don't think so. So we'll add a gazebo, a little bit of garden here, some of these nice flowering trees by the Paul W. Playground and the Connor Elementary School. Just doing some standard issue detailing, placing some things. We'll do a quick night time lapse of this area so we can at least keep an eye on any buildings that are leveling up, if they happen to level up, like that one there in the corner. And back to work. Let's see, that one got abandoned, not sure why. But we'll mark a few of these historical. This building here is kind of cool. Reminds me a lot, there's a building in New York City called the Lipstick Building. I don't think that's its actual name, but it's in Midtown Manhattan, and it kind of looks like that. It's like a circle. It looks almost like a lipstick container where you would rotate it and it would pop up. Kind of like that one. So I think the one in New York is much larger than that. But it's been a while since I've seen that. For those of you who don't know, New York City is kind of my hometown, so I take a lot of inspiration from that, but it's also a little bit unrealistic to build a New York City style city in city skylines, unless you just do massive grid and high density stuff. And then, I don't know, I feel like if I did that, it wouldn't come out even close to what I wanted. I would never be satisfied. So I just don't do that. I do a very organic city. I'm taking a lot of inspiration from Lisbon, Portugal, where I'm living right now. Although not specifically right in this episode. I don't know that I have one city in mind or one scene in mind when I'm doing any of this. I'm just trying to ease my way towards the highway, fill in this whole area. Let's add a couple of trees when they make sense. And just to get the zone, we need to get our population up. We're at 13,500 some population. So we're almost back to 14,000, which is that milestone that we needed to unlock the crematoriums that I cheesed to do. So you see how long it would have taken me to unlock the crematoriums. And even then, I would have to build another cemetery or two before this episode just to accommodate all the population that's dying of old age or whatever. I presume in this game, unless they're poisoned, from toxic water or something, that they died just of old age, which is kind of nice. Wouldn't it be nice if we lived in a world where everyone just died of old age instead of other causes? But I'm not sure. You never see the cause of death. Why is someone dying? If there's a car accident, that's not happening in this game. So it's hard to tell. Here we're gonna follow a seagull like we did last episode, like that Feeding Steven series. I was really into the seagull, and I noticed that the seagulls fly around an area, and so this is just flying around the area we just worked on. So it's kind of nice. We'll take a look, a true bird's eye view of everything that's been done. Not a whole lot, but at the same time, a whole lot, right? By now, if you're watching this, if this is not your first time watching one of my episodes, you know that I go pretty slowly to make sure that every neighborhood has the right feel. More than planning, I go for a specific feel, and I don't always know how to put a word on that. I don't know what's happened with our seagull right there. He was just spinning around in circles. So take it easy, seagull. Let's take a look at the map. Here we got a new, what is this? I think we like this. Let's keep that. Let's save our game, episode 25. And thank you very much for watching Xucaboa, 100% Vanilla Baby, episode number 25. And I will see you next time.